Temptation often prevails against us because of our simple and naive assumptions about temptation. We expect temptation will march through the front door, dressed like a wolf, announcing itself loudly as it comes. But temptation often prefers the back door, in the bedroom window, in that crack between the floorboards. Temptation relies on deception, in surprise, in ignorance. And so, to be able to overcome temptation and to be victorious over it, we have to start treating the war like a war. We have to study the enemy of our souls. We remember the story of Samson and Delilah because she overpowered the strongest men alive. But have we ever stopped to really ask how? How did Delilah subdue a man who had just killed 1,000 men? When we unpack the secrets of her seduction, they can become weapons for us against whatever temptation we face. The first step in taking temptation more seriously is to remember that temptation has a mission, and that mission is to ruin your soul and to rob you of God. Let's not kid ourselves. No temptation is innocent or trivial. All temptation schemes and plots for this one end, your never-ending misery. Temptation will please you in order to abuse you. It will seduce you in order to undo you, and it will distract you in order to destroy you. Delilah may have been motivated by money rather than hatred, but she was still every bit as determined to destroy Samson. The Philistines, Samson's enemies, said to Delilah, "Seduce him and see where his great strength lies, and by what means we may overpower him, that we may bind him to humble him." We see this in Judges chapter 16, verse 5. Just verses earlier, Samson had killed 1,000 of them with only a jawbone. These men were thirsty for blood, his blood, and Delilah was all too willing to prepare the slaughter. So, how did Delilah seek to destroy Samson? How did temptation overcome even the strongest man? The first lesson may seem obvious. Temptation seduces us by holding out pleasure. And again, Judges chapter 16 verse 5 says, "Seduce him and see where his great strength lies, and by what means we may overpower him." Before temptation can betray us to destruction, it must entice us with some promise of satisfaction. "Please tell me where your great strength lies," Delilah says to Samson, "and how you might be bound that one could subdue you." This is in verse 6. Samson entertained her games because he had tasted her love, an empty love, to be sure, but one that pleased him all the same. Did you know that all sin hangs on such love, an empty love? As John Piper says, the power of all temptation is the prospect that it will make me happier. No one sins out of a sense of duty. Let me ask you this question. What sins have gotten your attention? And what happiness have they promised? Sinful pleasure will always be appealing if we have not set our hearts on a superior pleasure. Psalm 16 verse 11 says, "You make known to me the path of life. In your presence there is fullness of joy. At your right hand are pleasures forevermore." Fullness of joy, not the fractions we often settle for with sin. Pleasures forevermore, not the short-lived thrills of lust or greed or laziness or envy. The power of temptation relies on us believing that sin is better than full and forever what God offers. It rests on us being tired or bored of God, the deepest and strongest pleasure in the universe. So, if we want to overcome temptation, we must study temptation and prepare our souls for warfare. So immerse yourself in a superior joy. Anchor your identity and security in who God says you are. Temptation is not a simple enemy, so ours will not be a simple victory. But in Christ, it will be sure.